this time, let's bring out calculators and learn a little bit about how to input our different types of numbers in here. Okay? So I have this mini cutout of the TI-84 plus Silver Edition calculator to illustrate this. First off, if you want to just type in natural numbers, all you really need to do is just type any of the number keys. That's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Okay? If you want to include whole numbers, then make sure, of course, you count 0. Now, obviously, you use 0 for some natural numbers like 10, 1, 0. Integers would be the same thing, but we have an additional key to work with, and that would be the negation, negative key. It's right down here. Now, big warning, make sure you don't confuse this negation key with the subtraction key over here. All right? They're different. If you get an error on the screen, syntax error, you press the wrong key. With rational numbers, what we're going to do is you can input all your number keys again, but also now you have your division key to represent fractions. So if I want to put, for example, 3 divided by 5 in the calculator, I would just type in 3 divide by 5, and of course press enter. It's always a good habit to always actually also use the clear key that's up here to clear the display before you do your math operations. The answer for a rational number is always a decimal at first. We're going to learn how to convert fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions in more detail in the lesson that is titled Fractions. So we'll learn more about using the calc in that area at that point. Irrational numbers. So far we've looked at quite a few numbers. Natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, and the rational numbers. There's another class of numbers that are called the irrational numbers. Well, what are those? Those are numbers on a number line that cannot be represented by an integer divided by an integer. Okay. Well, what's an example? Well, the most famous example of an irrational number is pi. No, not that pi. What I mean by pi is this number, pi, the Greek letter pi. Well, what is that number? Well, that's the number that represents the number of diameters that fit on a circle. So if you have a circle right here, for example, and I have this diameter, okay, if I were able to take that out and twisted it and placed it right on the circumference of the circle, how many would fit? Well, approximately 1, 2, 3 diameters, but there's a little bit left right here. Okay, well, people have tried, well, not tried, they have measured this, and you get approximately 0.14 additional diameters right there. Okay. So someone asks, well, what's pi? I understand what pi is. Just the number of diameters that fit in a circle. Easy, right? Well, now that you know that, you can rest easily now. Well, great. How can I actually represent pi on the number line? Well, it's around, let's say around right there. Okay. Now, I did not put the point 3.14. That's just an approximation, right? I want to say that's really the exact value of pi. So actually, irrational numbers can be represented exactly as a point on a number line. That's a fact. Okay? What's another example of an irrational number? Well, if you've encountered what are called radicals, like square roots, cube roots, most of those are irrational numbers. An example of that is the square root of 2. Again, if you have not seen this type of notation, this number, I will cover that in another lecture. Okay? So, if you have, great. You're going to get a good idea of where this is located. Well, if you punches on your calculator, you're going to get approximately 1.4 something. And that's going to be some points on the number line. Oh, let's say like around right there or so, approximately. Okay. Well, again, 1.4 is the approximate value, but again, I want to say that that's actually the precise value. At least pretend that. That is where my square root of 2 is located. I'll say right here is my pi. Okay, on the number line. Again, there are other examples. I talked about a little bit about in the notes. There's a number called e, which is the natural exponential number. That will be covered again in detail in another lecture. So here's an example, a couple examples of what are irrational numbers. One last thing I want to talk about the irrational numbers is the symbol for it. It's J. Most textbooks don't make an effort to mention or list a symbol for the irrational numbers. Other books don't use the J. They just say, well, it's just everything that's not a rational number. The opposite of a rational number. And that's fine to do that. And I actually mentioned that in my notes. You have different symbols, a Q with a little bar over, a little curly tilde over the Q. That's fine, but it can be represented by the letter J. On the calculator, for irrational numbers, what we need to do is, for example, pi. Well, pi is located right over here. Okay? So to reach that, notice it's not a main key. It's above a key. So anytime you want to reach a key that's in a different color, blue in this case, you have to press this key up here. It's called the second function key. I'm just going to use the word second. So you're going to go second, and then press the caret key right here, caret, and that will give you pi. If you want e, which is right here, just e. If it's e raised to some power, that's a whole other ballgame. We won't go there right now. I want to represent e approximately on the calculator. You go second, and then press the division key over here. What about square roots? Right here, above the x squared key. That's how you input a square root. Now, on some lower-end model calculators, like one like that, this is tiny scientific calculators, you have to type in the number, then the square root key. Others you say square roots, and then a number. So if you're not sure, just read the instruction manual. In this case, we press the square root key first. And again, since it's not a main key, we press the second up here and then the x squared key. And then the number you're interested in. So, again, we were talking about the square root of 2 earlier. So square root of 2 on the calculator, we go second and then press the x squared key because you want the second function that's above the x squared key, the square root key. And then, of course, you press enter when you want the calculator to display the answer. There are other keys to get other